Brian Lance with the Schiller Institute, and I'm honored to be asked to present this afternoon to you. I'll make just a few brief comments at the beginning. We have a special video that was just made yesterday by William Wirtz, the president, the national president of the Schiller Institute, and we'll watch approximately 6 minutes of that video. This is for our events going on around the country in New York, Houston, and elsewhere. You just heard, and many of you know the piece from its setting by Beethoven. You heard the chorus of the fourth movement of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, the setting of Ode to Joy, the poem by Friedrich Schiller. And the setting, of course, has become world famous. It's with the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was the piece performed in Berlin. It was recently performed at the G20 summit in China and their opening ceremonies. And it's fitting that we're opening our event today with this arrangement by John Segerson, who's the music director of the Schiller Institute nationally. So, the Ode to Joy, to brotherhood, to mankind, to the brotherhood of mankind. Friedrich Schiller is a unique figure in history, a genius. His influence reached over generations, as you know from just this one piece. Beethoven worked for over 10 years to set this poem appropriately. And if you know something about musicianship and poetry, the idea of the musician, of the composer, is to add something to the poem. So you're not simply trying to accompany the words, you're trying to actually expand upon, add to. And this was arguably Beethoven's crowning achievement. We have a full afternoon. You probably have looked at the program. We have some special guests here with us today. We have Miwa Steger, who is here from San Francisco to sing with us and also to perform accompaniment for us on some of our choral works. Is Miwa here in the room? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want right off the bat also to introduce Dorcille Duckins, who's our maestro of our chorus, accomplished musician. And we've added to the program we have with us today Shasha Zhang, the violinist, accomplished violinist, and she'll be performing in a few minutes. I think without further ado, let's turn to William Wirtz's introduction.
Yes, we can.
Getting the light. Read just a single sentence from Schiller, from the fourth aesthetic letter, to just carry out forward the thought that Will Wirtz was presenting. And I want to mention right now, well, two things. One is make sure you've turned off your telephones for a practical matter. We are recording, and obviously we want the music to be heard. Secondly, Will Wirtz has oversaw the project and was responsible personally for much of the work of the 4 volumes of Schiller's works that we've translated, which are available at the literature table in the back, including the aesthetic letters, including Wilhelm Tell, which we'll be seeing scenes of from today, from the drama, and much more. So those volumes and other material are available in the back. But this is what Friedrich Schiller had to say in the fourth aesthetic letter. Every individual man, one can say, carries by predisposition and destiny a pure, ideal man within himself. To agree with whose immutable unity in all his alterations is the great task of his existence, which flies in the face of the kind of cynicism that prevails and the divisiveness that prevails at the moment. In a profound way, the idea that each of us carry within ourselves an ideal personality, a person, and that our life is to strive to develop that quality, those qualities, in every aspect of life, is both a challenge and at the same time an affirmation of man made in the image of God. What you're going to hear today is really a dialogue, and we want to expand that dialogue as a dialogue of cultures. You'll hear the reach of Schiller. The next piece will be a piece by Schumann for voices, for two voices, alto and soprano and piano. Schumann, as a young man, many years after Schiller's death, at the age of 15, formed a literary club that studied more than a half a dozen works in depth by Schiller of his dramas, Wilhelm Tell, Don Carlos, and so forth. In his notebooks that we have from his life, he read from the letters of Schiller and Goethe, their correspondence, and with Werner and others. He was immersed in Friedrich Schiller. We've mentioned Beethoven already. Mozart's life corresponds almost exactly to the lifespan and lifetime of Friedrich Schiller, and was likewise affected. Into England, as you'll hear, Keats, Shelley, the great poets of the English period of awakening, studied in depth Schiller. And Schiller likewise studied in depth Shakespeare. In translation, he was introduced to Shakespeare when he was a child in school, and it really shaped his entire life going forward. We'll hear a poem by Pushkin, or a portion of a long poem by Pushkin of Russia, Russia's poet laureate. Pushkin's environment was saturated with Schiller. Schiller's plays appeared on the stage in St. Petersburg and Moscow within days or weeks, at most months, from when they first appeared on the stage in Germany. This says something about Schiller, but it also says something about humanity as true humanity, and our capabilities and our prospects. So with that, I'd like to introduce at this point our first performance, which will be Mayowa Steger and Marcia Bowen and Keisha Rogers. Perhaps you want to introduce your own piece. I don't know what.
You did a beautiful job. Just introduce it correctly.
All right.
Thank you.
she's going to perform Bach from the Bach partitas.
From Bach Partita number 2, the first movement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark Blocker. And Mark Blocker.
And John Dova.
From John Dova, yes. Scott's come all the way down from Euless, Texas, up in Fort Worth. So you're welcome. I'm asked to say a word about the tuning. We perform all of our music at A432, approximately C256, the Verdi tuning, so-called because of Giuseppe Verdi's campaign to make this the established tuning in Western music, certainly, I think beyond. The tuning itself dates back to the time approximately of Bach. Bach both discovered and explored the well-tempered system and defined and elaborated the 6 species of human voices, from bass through soprano. And the setting of A432 and C256 is the placement of the human voice and of the placement of register changes for the human voice, both for sopranos and tenors in terms of the 2nd to 3rd register. It's on the F sharp. And the pieces of the classical repertoire is performed with that concept of register shifts in terms of conveying emotion, conveying thoughts, and so forth. It's very it's in the music. It's embedded in the music, and so the tendency is not only to increase the pitch, which is now way above 440, 445 or so in Europe, in Berlin and so forth. The effect of this is to ruin human voices, the singing voices. The careers of opera singers, for example, are much shorter. And you may have noticed this in pop singers. It's even more obvious. I mean, the raspiness of their voices after a few years, I mean, their voices are being destroyed. But even the classically trained voices, their lifespans have been shortened by this increase of tuning upward to give it an additional brightness, an apparent brightness to the singing. To the playing, really, it's more for the orchestra than for voices, but the effect is negative in terms of voices. And the ability to convey the thoughts. And underlying that is the idea that these things are all just arbitrary. Well, we'll tune it this way, we'll tune it this way, we'll sing it this way, we'll do it that way, you know, pop, rock, rap, whatever, it's, you know, and it's the classical repertoire, the classical principle in terms of art is that man is in that sense the center of the universe, is the reference point by which we can judge everything else, and we have to judge everything else critically and self-consciously, and therefore this question of reestablishing tuning as a science, as a scientifically based, universally based principle is central to all of our work. Enough said. We have now, we're turning to poetry, the great classical poetry of Shakespeare, of Keats, of Pushkin, and so I'm pleased to invite Dan Leach up to lead this part of the program.
We in the Houston Schiller Institute chapter have been working on poetry for quite a few years. We sort of let it decline for a number of years, but we've recently returned to it, and we've also added some of our friends who don't work in our office full time, but have shown a desire to recite. Who will also be participating today. Now, the poems we're going to be performing for you are very diverse, come from a very diverse group of poets and very diverse kinds of poems, unified really, I think, by, number one, the fact that the people who are reciting them love them, and that is the best reason to recite a poem. Second of all, because I think they all, in some way, express what Schiller demanded of poetry, which that it reach the divine in every human being. What you heard Will Wirtz refer to as this quality of the ideal man in every human being. This can be done in many ways, and you'll hear it in many ways. From the first poem that we'll be hearing from, which is by Keats. You'll see that there's a lot of Keats on the program today because he's very beloved by our group, which is his first published poem, written when he was only, I think, 19 years old, if I'm correct. Then a poem by Schiller himself, which expresses in a very short but very beautiful way the quality that he talked about in his other published works. And then we're going to be hearing a poem recited, or part of a poem, as Brian said, by Pushkin, who took the torch that Schiller had lit in the late 1700s into Russia and just ignited the souls of his countrymen to become one of the, not only the greatest poet in the Russian language, but one of the greatest poets ever. And then we're going to be hearing after that a poem which has no known author, but I think expresses a very interesting principle, very much like the theme of Faust. I don't know if anybody saw the opera here that they just performed, which was the play was written by Goethe, who was Schiller's friend and collaborator. So it has a connection in a strange sort of way to our theme today. And then a poem by Shakespeare, which I think expresses in an intensely personal way, but a way in which can universally be appreciated, the same thing. And this is really what poetry, in my mind, is all about. It's personal, it's emotional, but it connects the hearer and the reader to something universal and divine. That will be our first group. We're going to have a break after that. Then we're going to have a second. Not right after that, but in the second portion of our program today, we're going to be performing a few more poems, which I'll say a little bit about afterwards. But so our first one, do people want to have the stand up here? All right. This is Keisha Rogers, who's going to be performing for us.
On first looking into Chapman's Homer by John Keats. Much have I traveled in realms of gold, and many goodly lands and kingdoms seen. Round many western islands have I been, which words and fealty to Apollo told. Oft of one wide expanse had I been told that deep-browed Homer ruled as his domain. Yet did I never breathe its pure serene, until I heard Chapman speak out loud and bold. Then felt I, like some watcher of the skies, when a new planet swims into its kin. Or, like stout Cortez, when with eagle eyes he stared at the Pacific, and all his men looked at each other with a wild surmise, silent upon a peak in Darien.
Next we have John Jamber.
Hope by Friedrich Schiller. All people discuss it and dream on end of better days that are coming. After a golden and prosperous goal, they are seen chasing and running. The world grows old and grows young in turn, yet does man for betterment hope eternal. 'Tis hope delivers him into life. Round the frolicsome void does it flutter. The youth is lured by his magic rife. It won't be interred with the elder, though in his coffin he ends his worry low, yet upon that coffin he plants his hope. There's no empty phony deceit, begot in the brain of a jester, proclaimed aloud in the heart is it. We are born for that which is better. And what the innermost voice conveys, the hoping spirit ne'er that betrays.
Okay, next we're going to be hearing from Mr. Ted Holden, who is going to recite a portion of a much longer fairy tale written in verse by Pushkin. He will be reciting, I believe, sections of it in Russian, and then giving you the English translation.
Right. Can you bring this up in the
Yeah,
screen?
and we have something to show on the screen as well. And he's also going to say a few words, just an introduction about what the story is about.
Dad tells me I have 10 minutes to teach everybody here how to speak Russian. That's probably not going to happen. I don't speak fluent Russian myself. I was a math major in school, right? Math majors usually modern physics. The physics bored me at the time. I minored in modern languages. I've never been to Russia. I read Russian without any difficulty. I believe I understand Pushkin. A great many people regard Pushkin as the greatest poet ever to have written in any Indo-European language. That's a hell of a statement. You know, he's my favorite poet. I mean, I'm not really that much into poetry, but but if I'm going to be reading poetry, this is usually the kind of thing it's going to be. Okay, the Russian artists. These works are typically made into children's books, and the artwork that goes into them is beyond fabulous. This lady's name is Beryozova, I believe, and she's very, very good. This is the story of Tsar Sultan. Okay, it's a сказка о царе Султане. О сыне его славном и могучем богатыре князе Гвидоне. Story of Tsar Sultan, of his son, о сыне его славном, glorious and powerful и могучем богатыре князе, noble lord Gvidon. Sultanovich, the son of Sultan, the прекрасной царевне Лебеди, of the glorious princess of the swans. Next page. Okay, some of the language in this is from 1830. It's not modern Russian. He's going to say девица instead of девушка, a young lady. He's going to say сестрица instead of сестра, sister, right? Brat, сестра. A lot of words, very old Indo-European words, are common across English and Russian. You'll recognize an awful lot of things. You've got to study Russian. You've got the Tsar. Sultan has taken over. He's out looking for bride, right? You know, try to keep the family together, right? Produce heirs and that sort of thing. And it's kind of known throughout that, the Tsar is out looking for a bride, right? So you've got these three sisters sitting there weaving. And they're talking about what they would do if each one of them was to become the Tsaritsa, right? Three девицы, three young ladies. Three девицы перед окном by the window. Прияли поздно вечером. Как бы я была царица, говорит она девица, невеста еще не мир, приготовлен я пир. This first girl says that if I were the Tsaritsa, I would prepare a gigantic feast for the entire Christian world. Там есть еще не мир, the entire Christian world. Приготовила, я пир, right? Would I prepare a giant feast. Second sister, как бы я была царица, говорит ее сестрица, там есть мир одна, надкала, я поняла. And if I were the Tsaritsa, the second sister says, that I would knit or weave a gigantic blanket for the whole world as one. Okay. Third sister, как бы я была царица, третья, мол, была сестрица. If I were the Tsaritsa, the third, says the third sister, "Я твоя батюшки царя, родила Богатыря." If I were the Tsaritsa, then for our father the Tsar would I bear a noble son. Okay? Now, the Tsar's been sitting at the gate listening to this, so he's going to have to choose. Okay? Twelka Wimovitsa Spiela, Viera Tibonka Zakripiela. No sooner had this third girl spoken than the door quietly opened. Viera, door. Tibonka Zakripiela. In Skelitsa Flitzar, Storini to Agasadar. And into the drawing room enters the Tsar, the lord of that dominion. Во все время разговора он стоял позади забора. Речь последних по всему полюбилась ему. And he had been standing over the gate during this entire conversation, and he liked the little speech of the third girl better than the other two. Red hair apparently was appealing to Russians early on, but they used the same word for red, beautiful. Krasnaya, здравствуй, krasnaya devica. Greetings, beautiful young lady. Здравствуй, krasnaya devica, говорит он, будет царица. In роди Богатыря, некий скоро сентября. So you can be the Tsaritsa, and you can bear a noble son, can be somewhere around September. Вы, школочки, сестрицы, выбирайтесь, если облите, and you two sisters can, come on out of the drawing room there. Поезжайте вслед за мной, that's straight. And you can follow me and follow your sister here. Будет одна из вас хитчиха, а другая повариха. The one who can be the waiter and the other can be the cook, right? Now, he's doing pretty well for himself here. So he set out just to find a bride for himself. Now he's got a bride and a cook and a seamstress, right? And this story, if you could just go through some of these things, what happens here? This is a long story. This is just the first page of it. To just see in first page and a half. So this bride does have the young son, and the other two sisters managed to nail her up in a barrel.
Oh.
And toss the barrel into the river, right? So anyway, they go through some gyrations and some adventures getting their act together.
Can you just run through some of the pictures?
You run through some of the pictures. Okay, now she got the barrel there in the river, right? They let loose in the river, and they finally managed to break out of the barrel. Right? He's got himself and managed to make a little bow and arrow for himself. Has to be done. Okay, keep going. And they got you've got a swan here, which is actually an enchanted princess, and she's got a problem. Right? The eagle's going to kill her and eat her. Right? The Don manages to save her, shoots the eagle, whatever that is, Korshunum, right? And so it's like this princess owes him a couple of favors. Keep going. So what he's going to do is he wants to go spy on these two evil sisters. You understand what I'm saying? Keep going. So there you go. It's like, see, she's going to manage to help him disguise himself. There he's cleverly disguised as a mosquito. Come on, right? We keep going. And the next, this happens a couple of times. Keep going. Keep going. Now here's disguised as a bumblebee, right? It's like one of these two sisters is going to say something bad about his mama. He's going to get stung right in the nose. So, at any rate, like I said, this is, you can see what happens, right? She's not happy at all. Like she just lost the election or something. Here you've got like the noble warriors coming. This is a common theme in Russian. Do we have 5 more minutes here? You get the idea, right? I mean, this is...
Could you recite all together in Russian, the first 20, 30, the first page of it, just so we can hear the music?
Going back to the beginning of the thing?
Yeah.
You get the idea of it right now. The guy's got a bigger toolkit to work with than an English language taught, okay? It's like, Russian has real Indo-European grammar. You've got declension cases, you've got word order is meaningless pretty much in Russian. So, it's like the grammar is telling you what's happening. It's like you don't really, English pretty much uses word order and prepositions in lieu of grammar. It's very much easier to rhyme things in Russian. Okay? Сказка царя Салтана, сыне его славный, могучим богатыря князя Гвидоня, Салтановича, его прекрасной царевны Лебеди. Going. Прийди бийте по окнам, прялый поздно вечерком. Как я была царица, говорит одна девица, кто на весь грешной мир приготовил мне пир. Как я была царица, говорит ее сестрица, кто на весь мир одна, наткала я плодна. Как я была царица, шейка молвила сестрица, я была матушки царя, родила богатыря. Так столько вымолвиться спела, дверь тихонько закрепила, и в светлицу входит царь, в стороне только государь. Во все время разговора он стоял позади забора, речь последней, по всему полбился ему. Здравствуй, прекрасная девица, говорит он, ну, царица, ты роди богатыря, некий суд сентября. Вы ж, голубушки сестрицы, выбирайтесь из светлицы, поезжайте вслед за мной, за сестрой. Будь одна из вас ткачиха, а другая поварика. Like I said, that's what Pushkin sounds like. You've got a little bit of an idea. These themes of his are common experiences amongst Russian people, right? He's not talking about anything grand off in outer space or anything like that. He's talking about things which, you know, people see in their lives, medieval things, fairy tale kinds of things. I have probably used up 10 minutes.
Yes.
Next, we'll be hearing from Jackie Carpenter. This is the one I referred to that was anonymous.
Brought my cheat sheet. And I just want to just say, I love this poem. I love this poem because I love the drama aspect of it. I love the interplay between the devil, the gods, and the man who sells his soul to the devil. And I love that theme. I feel in my own life I've had those challenges before, not as intensely as what's in this poem, but I feel like we're all challenged every day. We get choices between abiding by our own code of ethics or being seduced by something that looks very desirable, and then finding, if we make the choice to go for the latter, to find that there's a heavy price to pay. So I hope you enjoy the musicality and the drama of the poem as much as I do. He was the slave of ambition, and he vowed to the gods above to sell his soul to perdition for fortune, fame, and love. 3 wishes he cried, and the devil replied, fortune is a fickle one, often sought but seldom won. Still, I think it can be done. You know a man, a rich one too. Kill him. His wealth is will to you. Ambition fled. He paused a while. But daunted by the devil's smile, he killed his friend to gain his aim, and bowed his head in grief and shame. But the devil cried, it's all in the game. You wanted fortune, love, and fame, and so I came. 3 wishes through your life shall run. Behold, I've given you number 1. And the gods on high, with a watchful eye, looked down on the ways of man, with their hopes and fears through the weary years since the days of the world began. And the man, he prayed for the soul betrayed, had breathed a parting call. Though the mills of the gods run slowly, yet they grind exceedingly small. Urged by the spur of ambition, with the devil still as his guide, he now sought social position, for wealth had brought him pride. Bring fame, cried the man, and the devil began. Fame is but an accident, often sought, but seldom sent. Still, I think we're on the scent. You know a genius gone insane. Go steal the product of his brain. The man obeyed, then cried, be gone, from crime to crime you lead me on, to kill a man whose smile was glad, to rob a genius driven mad through want. Oh God, am I that bad? But the devil cried, what luck you've had, you're famous, lad. 3 wishes run your whole life through. Behold, I've given you number 2. And the gods looked down with an angry frown, till Satan fled their scorn. For the devil may play with common clay, for genius is heaven born. And the man grew bold with his fame and gold, and cried, well, after all, the mills of the gods grind slowly, if they ever grind at all. Men, good or bad, are but human, and he, like the rest, wanted love. So the devil soon brought him a woman, as fair as an angel above. I love you, he cried, but the woman replied, love is such an empty word, fancy fleeting like a bird. You have wealth and fame, I've heard. Those are things to be preferred. He gave her both. The wealth she spent, and so betrayed him, so fame went. But love came not in his despair. She only smiled and left him there. He called to the woman who didn't care. But the devil cried, the game ends there. You've had your share. 2 of your wishes came through me. Mighty gods keep number 3. And the gods grew stern as the mills they turned, that grind before they kill, till staggering blind with a wandering mind and the glare of an imbecile, from day to day he begs his way and winds his biggest call. The mills of the gods grind slowly, yet they grind
So the last poem on our program for this section will be by Ron Patay.
This is the 30th sonnet by William Shakespeare. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye, unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account the forebemoaned moan, which I knew paid, as if not paid before. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end.
All right, we need the chorus back up. We're going to be performing a piece now by Felix Mendelssohn, Thanks Be to God. It's part of from the oratorio Elijah, which is actually performed first in English. It was written on a commission from Buckingham, England, Birmingham, festival in Birmingham. And so this is going to be the piece we're going to be performing in 1 second. Mendelssohn himself, of course, is a descendant of Moses Mendelssohn. The circles of Moses Mendelssohn and Lessing, these were the circles that brought Bach down through the ages to Mozart and Beethoven and to Mendelssohn himself. And he was very much inspired by Bach as well as Handel in preparing this oratorio. This will be followed then by 2 settings of Schiller. Joe Jennings will be performing a Schubert setting of a poem by Schiller. And then Dorcille Duckins will honor us with a solo performance of I believe, both the recitative and aria of, from Verdi's opera, Don Carlo, the scene with, famous scene with Prince Philip, King Philip, bemoaning his fate, as in the last poem we just heard, really an echo of that. So. Oh, I see.
No.
singing it this spring. Yes.
So the translation of this is in your program, and this is one of Helga's favorite Schiller poems, which Schubert set the music twice because he loved it so much. And it's all about that when it comes to the adventure of life, you're on your own. You know, sometimes you just have to jump in and make it happen.
Du musst wagen, denn die verso a finir. L'aurora imbianca il mio velo, già spunta il dì. Passar, vecchio miei giorni lanti, il giorno Dio, spariado l'io chi languanti. Dormir sol nel malto mio regal, quando la mia giornata è giunta sera. Dormir sol sotto la volta nera, dormir sotto la volta nera, l'annella bello dell'Escurial. Sei il certore cal, a metà sei il poter dell'agere nel cor che Dio può sol veder. Ah, sei il certore cal, a metà sei il poter di lanciare nel cor che Dio sol può veder. Se non me piace che l'altra ancora il serdo che del re il consorte l'onora. Dormir sol nel manto mio regal, quando la mia giornata è giunta sera. Dormir sol sotto la volta nera, dormir sotto la volta nera, l'annella bello dell'Escurial. Ah, sei il settore gal, a me desse il poter di latere nei cor. Quella giamai mi amò, no, quel cor chiuso è a me.